In this video, I'm going to show you two simple ways you can practice creating the illusion of texture in your drawings. I'm going to start with a nice basket weave texture, like this bamboo weave we've got here, and I'm then going to show you a quick and simple way to draw hair. Here's an example that I started earlier. You can see there's an illusion here that these go under and over, and you can imagine if you ran your hand over that, you'd feel some of that texture in there. Now, this is quite simple to create. All I've got to do is create this crisscrossing pattern. So I'm not going to use a ruler because I want these to vary slightly in their size. So I'm just going to do a small area to give you an idea, and then we'll go back to that example. Right, the next thing I'm going to get is a rubber, and I'm just going to decide which of these are going over and which of these are going under. So this one here is going over, so I'll rub out those lines. Here it's going under and over again. And you can see I'm starting to get that illusion of the form a little bit. I can see kind of what's going above and below. If I come back to this one. So you can see here I've got darker areas at the edges, lighter edges in the middle. And then within that, I've got these little lines. Now I've varied it in this example because I've looked really closely at the texture that I'm drawing, and I've looked for areas where there's variation, like this divot down the center of this strip, or trying to create kind of the ends where a strip has ended and they need to put in a new piece, or on this one, little cracks, little lines going across. So I'll show you how to create that kind of basic texture, and you can then vary that yourselves. So I'm looking at this strip here. This one is going over. So I'm going to do a full strip. Just with these little flicking motions, all roughly in the same direction. I'm trying to keep them darker, the edges. A darker tone at the edge there, just to really give that a shadow as though it's going underneath. I'll bring some lighter lines, a little bit less pressure into the center. Don't need quite as many now. I'm beginning to get that texture. Dark a bit wider. There we go. Now, you can see I've rushed that a little bit. I'll probably spend a bit more time on that. But you get the idea how this, when you then repeat it, going in different directions, can start to build up that idea of texture. So our next texture is hair. This is one I've done earlier. Now, hair is arguably a bit more of a complex texture, so I'll probably give you a longer tutorial at some point later on when I've got a bit more time. However, for now, I'm going to draw out this object here. So I'm going to create a ball, but I'm going to give it hair to give it some texture. So I'm going to start just with a circle. Now, when we look at hair, hair tends to clump together in little bits. So you can see we've kind of got these areas of hair, and it all tends to go in roughly the same direction. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to decide on our circle where the hair starts. So I'm just going to very lightly mark it out, and I'll mark it lightly because I plan to rub that out later. And it's going to start there, and it's going to come around this direction. Hopefully you can see that. Right. And I'm then just going to kind of break that up into larger pieces. I'm going to give each one of those their own direction. Now we've got that planned out, we're going to take another look back at this. So you'll notice the top is a lot lighter than the bottom. That's because the light is coming in roughly this direction. Now we're going to do the same on this one, but you can have yours coming in any direction. It's just useful to recognize what that direction that is. So this is now a bit similar to that basket texture that I showed you earlier. So I'm doing little flicks and I'm making it darker at the base, and as I come up here it'll get lighter. Now, hair tends to have a little bit of a looser texture, so things come off in kind of random directions. So try not to have everything going in the same direction, because it'll look like someone has just spent about 6 hours combing that hairy texture, and that's not normally what we're looking for. Okay, now as I get round up here, I'm going to start holding my pencil a bit further back, start to lighten that up. We can start to get that texture in. Now, bring this one back, we can see how this would be the start of what we've got here. Notice I've got little patches where I've just thrown in some darker bits, because that one was a bit big and I've just tried to break it up into smaller ones. That's fine. Notice how there are also shadows where they overlap. So this one down here would be a lot darker. Okay? And I'll let you experiment with that texture. Like I've said, I'll put out a longer tutorial on this later on. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you let me know by giving me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for listening.